Hey peeps! Welcome back to my channel, and if this is your very first time, a very warm welcome. My name is Ama and I am bringing you another video on unity and change. Last week Thursday we celebrated World Suicide Prevention Day, and next month is Mental Health Awareness Month, and as a social change YouTuber I thought I'd talk about these issues so that we can break down the stigma around mental illnesses as well as suicide. So I'll be doing this by sharing with you my story as well as 2 voice recordings from 2 of my peeps. But before I get to my story, I'd like to share with you a little bit about suicide. So suicide is a very complex issue. And I realized that there are many factors that contribute to people committing suicide. And they range from different mental illnesses that people experience and how people deal with these mental illnesses. But today I want to focus on one issue or one factor that contributes to people committing suicide. And this one issue is depression. Depression is one of the main factors that leads to people committing suicide. But again, with depression as it is, there are many factors that contribute to people experiencing depression. But I want to talk about stress. Stress contributes to a person having depression. But before a person can have depression, they have to experience stress first. A person does not just get depression out of nowhere. It's a result of life stresses. And in life, we experience different sorts of stress. And it's really about how a person deals with the stresses. Given that life gives us all sorts of stresses, it's then up to us to decide on whether we want this stress to create depression in our lives or not. Because once you reach that depression phase, it's very difficult to come out of it. Although it is possible to come out of it with help, there is professional help out there to help you come out of depression. But what I want to do with this video today is to prevent us from getting into the depression phase in the first place, so that we are not in that phase where we cannot think properly and where we are so overwhelmed to a point where we start having suicidal thoughts. And that's what depression does to you. And once you're there, that's when most people tend to just commit suicide, because it's just too much for them and they're not in the right mental capacity to think or to come up with solutions or to see how they can make things better again. But with help it's possible. But well, for today though, I just want to talk about how we can even prevent ourselves from getting into the depression phase. So when you're faced with stress, it's very easy to use your brain and see how you can try and avoid or come out from this stress. And of course you cannot do this on your own most of the time, so that's why you need help. And as human beings, we are there, or we should be there, to help each other. I'm saying we should be there because it's not always the time, it's not all the time that you find people helping each other. And that's why I've been preaching ever since I started this channel. Actually, that's one of the main reasons why I started this channel, to instill the humanity that I feel is lacking in society, to create unity. And so I'll really appreciate if you can just subscribe to my channel and join me on this journey, because I think the world needs this, and I can only reach out to as many people as possible if you guys can support my channel and subscribe to it. Human beings have the power. We have the power to create life and we also have the power to create death. So the stresses that people experience, they're mostly a result of human behavior or human action. And so the fact that human beings have the power to create stress to each other, at the same time we also have the power to relieve or to release that stress from each other. And so this brings me to my story that I said I'm gonna share with you earlier on. So I mentioned on my first video, my intro video. If you haven't checked it out, please check it out. It's my very first video. I'll put it in the description box below, and I'll also put it here. So my story is, I had to fight my way out from reaching the last phase, which is suicide. Because you never know if you're gonna commit suicide, right? One never knows. You can't predict the future, and you can't predict how your mind and your body will handle certain situations. So one just only needs to prevent it from happening in the first place. So I could have easily moved from life stresses to depression, and while I'm on that depression phase, I could have maybe had suicidal thoughts, or all sorts of things could have happened to me. And with suicidal thoughts, one tends to commit suicide, of course. But I had to prevent myself while I'm still experiencing the life stresses. Because when you have life stresses, you have the ability to think. You are still okay. You just need to know who to relate with, or know who to associate yourself with. The more you associate yourself with bad people, the more you're gonna feel so overwhelmed by whatever stress you are experiencing. And so you need to make a conscious decision to withdraw and find people that are supportive. I tell you, in as much as so many things are happening, so many bad things are happening in the world, and so many people being so angry towards each other for no reason, and people just hating each other, we have that's happening. I'm sure you'll agree with me. But at the same time, we also have people that are very generous, people that are very kind, people that are always willing to give an ear, people that are helpful, people that believe in humanity or Ubuntu. And so back to my story is, I worked as a teacher. I had to resign, and one of the reasons why I resigned was because I was not happy in my workplace. This is when I was doing when I was doing my real teaching job. Before then, I had to do a teaching intern, and I was very happy there. But again, I couldn't remain there forever. I needed to grow and take up a real teaching position, and that threw me at a school where, to be honest, I was not happy, and I could just see that if I continue there, I will end up depressed. Why I'm saying this is because on a daily basis, as you're going to work or as you're doing your daily routine or whatever you're doing, you come across different things that makes you angry, or that upsets you, or that comes as stress, right? And so while you're coming across those things, you also need to be surrounded by people that will be able to help you feel at ease, or to help you ease those life stresses, right? And so you want to be around people that are very understanding. And I could just see that at my workplace, yes, I had colleagues that were very kind and very generous, but you don't just want only your normal colleagues to do that. You also want the rule makers, like your colleagues, but they're not just normal colleagues, but they make rules. You want your bosses to also be understanding, but if they're not, then you have to now think for your life, whether you want to continue or whether you want to just stick around just because you want a paycheck. But at the end of the day, you need to know that your life is more important than a paycheck. And so that's what I want you guys to decide now, on whether you want to prioritize money or whether you want to prioritize your life. Because your colleagues that are rule makers, they're the ones that can either make your life miserable or they can make your life worth living. You need to think, if you are to experience a huge life stressor like divorce or just any huge life stressor, you need to think, if you are to experience that, will your boss be humane enough to understand what you're going through? Will your boss make it easy for you to pass through that life stressor and to survive it? And if you sit down and realize that your boss will not really care much, or they will just have a don't care spirit, then you have to get out from that situation. You have to get out from that job. So you need a boss who will understand that you need to sort yourself out first before you could fulfill the job requirement, because your life is more important than the job you have to do. Actually, you are unable to do the job properly if your mind is not there, if you've got something that is bothering you. Another thing is that you also want a working environment that is healthy, a healthy work environment, because remember, you spend most of the time at work. So in a week you spend 5 days at work. That is a lot of your time. And so if you're experiencing stress from outside that's not related to work, maybe family or whatever life stresses that you have to experience outside work, and then you still have to go to work. When you get to work, you then want your work not to add on top of the already weight that you're experiencing. So you don't want a place where the moment you walk into a staff room there's just so much tension, or that it's just not pleasant for you. You don't want that, because then that will accelerate your stress levels, and you know that when you have high stress levels, that will just lead to depression. And once you're depressed, now that's a phase that you don't want to get into. You don't want to reach there, because that's another complex issue on its own. And I wish to speak about depression sometime in the near future, because addressing that is also another way of bringing awareness about suicide, because depression is also one of the factors that leads people to committing suicide. So I wish to release a video about that in future. I've had to resign from that position and look for other opportunities that I can still generate an income, but knowing that I will be surrounded by people that I can lean on them for support if I am to go hungry and with no money, or if I am to experience a major life stressor. I will still be supported, and I will not feel guilty, or I will not be blamed for not doing my job properly or whatsoever, because these people totally understand that I am not myself and that I'm experiencing major life stresses and that I need help. But of course, before you can even resign from your job, you first need to make sure that you have secured all things in life. You first need to check that, okay, if I resign, I'm gonna go here and here I'll make money, and here I'll do this, and I'm doing what I'm enjoying. So you first need to make sure that everything is in place before you can resign, because you don't wanna be left with no income. I mean, we need income, right? Now I'd like to share with you 2 stories from 2 of my peeps. They have narrated how 2 people that they know committed suicide.
Hi everyone, my name is Resigned. I just wanted to share with you briefly why my father committed suicide. So my father committed suicide in 2014, around the 27th of June. And I think the main reason for his suicide was the fact that he was going through a depression, And this was as a result of the fact that he went through a divorce just a year before 2014. So in 2013, the beginning, he went through a divorce. And the year prior to that, he also had discovered that he had a chronic disease. And I also need to mention at this point that my father was married for about 29 years, and then he had to go through a divorce. So I think his life was really shattered. And yeah, he wasn't really ready for a new beginning and to live the new life that was brought forth to him as a result of all these things.
The issue of suicide is a very complex and deep topic, and unfortunately, most of us still do not fully get it. I mean, you'll hear most people like saying things such as, "Oh, I don't understand why someone would ever commit suicide," and I think that's really a very very naive thing to do, because you basically haven't been in that person's shoes and you haven't really felt what they were going through, and you just saying you don't understand why anyone would commit suicide is just naive, to be honest. You just do not acknowledge that there are certain things that other people might be struggling with deep down, even though they may not talk about them. And that is very, I mean, I don't even know, man. I remember this story of one of my colleagues. So the guy had gotten a scholarship to go and study in Canada, and apparently the Miss didn't want him to leave. I'm guessing it was because of insecurity issues. Maybe he thought the guy would never come back to her or leave her for another woman. I don't know, but she ended up faking rape, and the guy was gonna be sent in jail. And I think it really touched him really. It hit him really hard when he thought of the fact that he was just about to move to the next stage of his life, and now he has to face jail. Uh, Unfortunately, he ended up just committing suicide, and it's very sad, man. It's very sad.
When you are humane, you also full of so much positive vibes to a point where you can clearly see if someone is no longer the same. If someone you know and they're no longer acting the same because they're stressed out, you can clearly see that they're not themselves. And as a result, you can offer to help, or you can make them aware that you are there for them and you'll be a listening ear, or maybe just ask them if you can do anything for them, if you can call anyone for them. Just be there. You can pick up if they're not themselves anymore. But if you're always full of negative vibes and you just want to judge and you're just complaining, you can't even pick that someone is not themselves anymore. So just by being observant, maybe your office partner or your bus partner or your lab partner, just by being observant and always wanting to know whether they're okay, that can make a difference in someone's life, because you never know if that person you are checking on is experiencing a major life stressor. So let us break the stigma and talk about these issues, and at the same time be willing to help one another, because we are stronger together. And this way we can easily survive all these social challenges. So please help me to spread awareness by subscribing to my channel, and if you've enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up, and you can also share it. So I'll see you all again next week Saturday. Bye!